tidak bekerja jadi speaker, jadi ya udah nggak ngomong.
Itu nggak perform speaker.
Ya enggak ya? Nah, Saya mulainya tanggal 12 saya kemudian 20 kemudian 20 bulan 3 itu ada demam dan sleep diare, bukan diare tapi lebih ke maaf ya. Dan
nanti mau olahraga dulu ya. Enggak kan semua nanti.
Gimana?
Dengar Makassar.
Online.
Daftar saja daripada.
pada
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang.
Good afternoon to all participants. Best wishes to all of us. Bertemu lagi dalam acara serial webinar yang hari ini merupakan kerjasama Perdami Sulawesi Selatan, Universitas Hasanuddin, dan IViS. Bersama dengan saya, Dr. Melita dari Jakarta, dan rekan saya,
Saya Dr. Ilham dari Yogyakarta.
Hari ini kita akan mengikuti webinar dengan tema Teaching, Training, and Eye Care Service During Pandemic bersama dengan para pembicara yang merupakan pakar di bidangnya nih tentunya Dr. Ilham yang akan berbagi pengalaman tentang pelayanan dan pendidikan mata selama masa pandemi COVID-19. Ini cocok banget nih dok di era pandemi seperti sekarang, pas banget.
Ya, betul sekali Dr. Melita. Tetapi sebelum kita memulai webinar kita pada hari ini, kami menginfokan bagi seluruh peserta untuk dapat mengisi link absen Google Form yang akan ada di kolom chat Zoom ini ya dokter ya.
Iya.
Diharapkan juga untuk para peserta untuk tidak menulis nama untuk absen di chat ya dok ya, karena kolom chat ini nantinya hanya akan digunakan untuk menulis pertanyaan saja dokter.
Betul sekali.
Dan kami harapkan juga untuk kehadiran via Zoom meeting ini adalah minimal 30 menit, dokter. Jadi mohon maaf apabila kehadirannya kurang dari 30 menit, maka sistem akan tidak dapat melanjutkan untuk mengolah menjadi sertifikat, dokter. Seperti itu.
Iya. Jangan sampai salah ya berarti ya. Kalau tidak dapat sertifikat, karena webinar kita ini ber-SKP, Dr. Ilham.
Betul sekali, dokter.
Kita berterima kasih kepada Perdami Cabang Sulawesi Selatan yang telah mendukung terselenggaranya acara ini. Telah hadir bersama dengan kita Dr. Andi Muhammad Ichsan, spesialis mata konsultan Ph.D, sebagai wakil dari Perdami Sulawesi Selatan. Pada Dr. Ichsan, kami mohon agar dapat memberi sedikit sambutan, dokter.
Ya. Terima kasih kepada MC, Dr. Melita dan Dr. Ilham. Perkenalkan saya sebagai Ketua Perdami SulSel. Bukan sambutan.
Dr. Ichsan.
Bye-bye.
Sudah? Ya.
Ya,
Terima
Dr.
kasih
Ichsan,
kepada
silakan
MC,
dok. Ya.
pada MC, Dr. Melita dan Dr. Ilham. Perkenalkan saya sebagai Ketua Perdami Sulawesi Selatan memberikan sambutan. Yang kami hormati dan kami banggakan Ketua PP Perdami Dr. Sidik, spesialis mata konsultan, Presiden Indonesia Visual Science, Dr. Spanji, spesialis mata konsultan PhD, para speakers internasional dan nasional, serta hadirin dan hadirat peserta webinar yang kami hormati. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang dan salam sejahtera buat kita semua. Syukur alhamdulillah pada hari ini dalam suasana pandemi COVID-19 kita semua tetap sehat dan tetap dalam lindungan yang Maha Kuasa, sehingga kita semua masih bisa menyelenggarakan dan mengikuti webinar yang diselenggarakan oleh Perdami Sulawesi Selatan bekerjasama dengan Indonesian Visual Science. Webinar kali ini mengusung tema tentang Teaching, Training, and Eye Care Services during Pandemic, yang menggabungkan para pembicara dari tiga negara dan 3 benua, yaitu Scotland, UK, Indonesia, dan Australia. Tentunya kita akan memperoleh sharing pengetahuan dan pengalaman dari para pembicara yang handal di bidangnya masing-masing. Let me greet our distinguished speakers, Dr. John Ellis from National Health Service, Scotland, UK, Dr. Mark Ellis from Royal Australasian College of Surgeons, Australia, Dr. Muhammad Abrar Ismail, spesialis mata konsultan M.Kes, Ketua Program Studi PPD Sikamata, Fakultas Kedokteran Unhas, Profesor Dr. Budu, Ph.D, Sp.M, konsultan M.Med.Ed sebagai Dean of Faculty of Medicine, and also as the Chairman of Asosiasi Institusi Pendidikan Kedokteran Indonesia. Speaker kelima, Dr. Andrew Pyott from Scottish Ophthalmology Society and also from Royal College of Ophthalmologists, Scotland, UK. And the last and very special thanks to Dr. Syntia Nusanti, spesialis mata konsultan M.Ed sebagai Ketua Komisi Ujian Nasional IKMI, Dr. Syntia, I know you very well. You just finished your hard work to prepare national examination of Collegium Ophthalmology Indonesia yesterday, just finished yesterday. And on the same day, your mother passed away. So on behalf of PERDAMI SulSel and from myself, we'd like to express our deep condolence and hope you and your family be strong to face this situation. For all speakers, thank you very much for your great contribution to us, so we can learn from your experiences how to deal the situation, keep performing eye care service for the patient, and also keep running and in teaching and training medical students, including residents during pandemic. Pada seluruh peserta, selamat berwebinar. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih kepada Dr. Ichsan atas sambutannya dan dukungan dari Perdami Sulawesi Selatan untuk acara ini.
Ya, kami juga berterima kasih kepada Indonesian Visual Science yang juga mendukung acara ini. Telah hadir bersama kita Dr. Supanji, spesialis mata konsultan Ph.D. sebagai Presiden of IViS. Kepada Dr. Supanji, kami mohon agar dapat memberikan sambutan. Waktu dan tempat kami persilahkan, Dokter.
Terima kasih kepada panitia, kepada yang terhormat Bapak kita, Ketua PP Perdami, Ketua Perdami Cabang Sulawesi Selatan, para pembicara, panitia pelaksana dari IViS dan Perdami Sulawesi Selatan dan Universitas Hasanuddin, seluruh peserta dan sponsorship. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Saya ucapkan selamat datang pada acara webinar kolaborasi Perdami Sulawesi Selatan, Universitas Hasanuddin, dan IViS yang pada kesempatan kali ini dengan tema Teaching, Training, and Eye Care Services During Pandemic. Alhamdulillahirrabbilalamin, puji syukur kepada Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala yang dengan rahmatnya kita dikaruniai nikmat sehat sehingga bisa berkumpul dalam kegiatan webinar ini. IViS atau disebut Indonesian Visual Science adalah sebuah organisasi nirlaba yang dibuat atau di-create sebagai wadah pembelajaran bersama di bidang oftalmologi bagi seluruh teman sejawat semua. IViS berupaya menerapkan prinsip lintas usia, lintas wilayah, dan lintas universitas, sehingga diharapkan bisa menjadi wadah pembelajaran yang universal dan tidak mengenal sekat apapun, serta bisa memberikan manfaat seluas-luasnya dan sebesar-besarnya bagi kemajuan dunia oftalmologi di Indonesia. Terima kasih yang tak terhingga kepada Bapak Ketua PP Perdami, Dr. Sidik, spesialis mata konsultan, atas supportnya dan dalam mengarahkan kami demi kemajuan spesialis mata Indonesia. Webinar kali ini akan berupaya membahas dan menggali tentang bagaimana pelaksanaan proses pendidikan dan pelayanan kesehatan di bidang oftalmologi di tengah situasi pandemi global COVID-19 dari para pembicara yang berkompeten di bidangnya. Akhir kata, saya ucapkan terima kasih atas seluruh pihak yang terlibat sehingga webinar ini dapat terlaksana dengan baik. Selamat belajar kepada seluruh peserta dan semoga bermanfaat. IViS, we can see and learn from everywhere. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih kepada Dr. Supanji atas sambutan yang telah diberikan.
Untuk sambutan yang berikutnya, kami mohonkan kepada Dr. Muhammad Sidik, spesialis mata konsultan, sebagai Ketua Perdami Pusat. Kepada Dr. Sidik, mohon dapat memberikan sepatah dua patah kata, Dokter. Dr. Sidik mungkin masih termute ya, bisa dibantu mungkin?
Ya.
Ya. Selamat siang, Dok.
Selamat siang. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang, teman sejawat semua. Yang saya hormati, saya sayangi Ketua Perdami SulSel, Dr. Ichsan, Dr. Supanji, Presiden IViS, yang sangat saya hormati, teman-teman sejawat anggota Perdami dari seluruh Indonesia, saya yakin karena saya lihat partisipannya sudah hampir 900 orang, bukan main. Pertama, marilah kita panjatkan puji syukur kehadiran Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, kita bisa berkumpul bertemu dalam webinar ini dalam keadaan sehat. Kita ketahui Okay, sorry. I would like also to gratitude to Dr. John Ellis, to Dr. Andy Pyott, and Dr. Mark Ellis from Australia. I hope you are all doing well now. Kita ketahui bahwa beberapa bulan ini kita mengalami suatu hal yang bukan main ya. Pandemi COVID mulai Februari sehingga banyak hal yang menjadi tertunda. Kemudian diikuti dengan sebagai Ketua Perdami saya ingin melaporkan beberapa hal. Salah satunya adalah keluarnya Perdir BPJS nomor 1-2 tentang pelayanan katarak, kemudian yang kedua tentang refraksi, bahwa pelayanan refraksi nantinya akan dilaksanakan di FKTP untuk refraksi tertentu. Kemudian yang ketiga adalah yang paling menghebohkan adalah Perkonsil 54/2018 yang mengharuskan kita membuat ya STRKT, apakah itu fellowship atau spesialis. Hal ini menyebabkan teman-teman semua menjadi saya melihat antusiasme yang begitu besar bagi webinar karena memang itu dibutuhkan untuk dalam rangka pengurusan SRKT, memerlukan SKP segala macam, dan ini diantisipasi oleh teman-teman yang lain untuk membuat berbagai webinar. Saya dari pengurus pusat sangat mengapresiasi hal ini karena hal ini sangat membantu seluruh anggota Perdami. Khusus untuk IViS saya ucapkan selamat dan penghargaan setinggi-tingginya karena sudah banyak melakukan beberapa webinar yang memang sangat dibutuhkan oleh teman-teman sejawat kita di seluruh Indonesia. Saya berharap bahwa webinar yang dilaksanakan oleh teman-teman kita masih dalam kerangka organisasi dan tidak keluar dari kerangka seperti misalnya gratifikasi dan sebagainya, karena alhamdulillah sih selama ini apa yang dilakukan oleh teman-teman Perdami masih dalam kerangka yang masih dalam batas etik. Karena kita ketahui bahwa ada hal-hal yang tidak diperkenankan dalam melaksanakan kegiatan yang menggunakan sponsorship, misalnya mencantumkan nama produk dalam sponsor, kemudian mencantumkan sponsor dalam sertifikat, itu hal yang tidak diperkenankan sebetulnya. Dan alhamdulillah selama ini apa yang dilaksanakan oleh Perdami oleh berbagai cabang masih dalam koridor tersebut. Terima kasih pada teman-teman sejawat semua. To our colleagues from Scotland, Dr. John Ellis, Dr. Mark Ellis, Dr. Andrew Pyott, I would like to thanks to all of you that you want to share your knowledge on this webinar meeting. And I hope you enjoy this meeting. And maybe I hope we can meet again in the next future. Buat teman-teman semua, saya berharap kita bisa memanfaatkan forum ini dengan sebaik-baiknya. Forum dengan judul Teaching, Training, and ICAR Services. Agak berbeda dari biasa karena di sini juga mengandung unsur pendidikan. Kita lihat pada pembicaranya ada Dr. Prof. Budu, Dr. Abrar, sebagai APS, Dr. Syntia, Nusanti. Terima kasih pada semua pembicara yang telah bersedia membagi pengetahuan dan pengalaman pada kesempatan webinar ini. Dan pada semua peserta tentunya saya harapkan bisa mengambil manfaat sebesar-besarnya dari webinar kali ini. Sekali lagi saya ucapkan kepada teman-teman, khusus pada IViS yang telah mengorganisir pertemuan yang sungguh bermanfaat untuk anggota pada hari ini. Terima kasih Dr. Perdami SulSel, Dr. Ichsan, dan Dr. Panji yang telah memberikan kesempatan untuk bisa saya bicara pada hari ini. Terakhir, bila taufiq wal hidayah, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Dr. Sidik atas sambutannya. Kami juga berharap acara ini dapat bermanfaat untuk teman-teman oftalmologis se-Indonesia ya Dr. Ilham ya.
Betul sekali Dokter. Selanjutnya, Dr. Melita, kami akan membacakan susunan acara dan memperkenalkan moderator dan pembicara kita pada hari ini.
Iya, materi kita untuk sesi yang pertama adalah Service During Pandemic dengan moderator Dr. Muhammad Irfan, spesialis mata. Selamat siang Dr. Irfan.
Siang Dr. Melita, Dr. Ilham.
Ya,
siang,
dengan
Dr.
pemateri yang kita kedatangan tamu dari luar. Yang pertama adalah Dr. John Ellis dari Skotlandia. Good afternoon and welcome Dr. John Ellis.
It's nice to see you.
Thank you. Terima
Kami
kasih.
perkenalkan pula Dr. Mark Ellis dari Australia. Good afternoon, Dr. Mark Ellis. Would you please wave your hand, please, to all of us?
Yeah,
Show
it's
your hand
Salamat
to-
Malam here. It's nice and dark. It's about 5:30. Well, it's going into 5:45. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming here. Dan dari tanah air, kita telah kehadiran Dr. Muhammad Abrar Ismail, spesialis mata. Selamat siang, Dr. Abrar.
Selamat siang, Dr. Melita.
Ya, semua pembicara kita adalah pakar di bidangnya dan akan berbagi pengalaman tentang pelayanan mata di negara masing-masing selama masa COVID-19, Dr. Ilham.
Ya, langsung saja Dr. Melita, untuk mempersingkat waktu, mungkin kita juga sudah tidak sabar ya dokter ya.
Iya.
Kami persilahkan kepada Dr. Irfan untuk memandu acara sesi satu kita pada siang hari ini. Kami persilahkan Dr. Irfan.
Ya, terima kasih Dr. Melita dan Dr. Ilham. Thank you. I'm Muhammad Irfan, moderator for the first session of today's webinar. We know that COVID pandemic have a big impact to health services, including eye care services. There are different ways in facing this pandemic for each health facility around the world. Today, we would have three perspectives from three different countries about how is pandemic affecting their eye care services. I'm sure this will be interesting. Your active participation is very much appreciated, so please ask questions, share your comments, and even challenge our ideas. Use the chat panel on the bottom of your Zoom player to share at any time during the webinar. At this point, I'd like to introduce our featured speakers so we can get into our content. First speaker is Dr. John Ellis, an ophthalmologist and vitreoretinal surgeon, works for National Health Service in Scotland. He completed his medical education and Doctor of Philosophy in University of Dundee and University of Aberdeen, Scotland. He holds the title of Fellow of the Royal College of Ophthalmology. Now he was a consultant ophthalmologist and honorary senior clinical teacher at Ninewells Hospital and Medical Schools, Dundee, Scotland. Despite huge numbers of publications in VR field, he also interested in epidemiology of eye disease, visual disability, and health economics research. Dr. John was the coordinator of Dundee Makassar Vision 2020 Link program, which is established since 12 years ago. And almost every year, he and his team comes to visit and share knowledge with us in Makassar. He has been granted honorary lecture from University of St. Andrews and also Hasanuddin University, Makassar. And today he's going to share about eye care services in Scotland during pandemic that I believe will help us to have another perspective on how to deliver eye care services during this pandemic. Dr. John, welcome. You have 15 minutes to share your screen, Dr. John.
Thank you. Selamat siang. Is that broadcasting okay?
Yes, it's okay.
So the question is, what have we learned in Scotland from an epidemic that will teach us about the future? The epidemic is the cases on the population in excess of what we expect. So one case of smallpox would be an epidemic. So we have this new epidemic, and then it becomes part of the population, becomes endemic. One of the problems people have is the question of whether we have got it right. What has it done to eye services? What is the question about gas and aerosol producing procedures, and where do we go next? In summary, what can we learn? What can we change? And what do we do next? This is the briefest timeline I can manage. And you know that from the 31st of December, a small cluster of pneumonia was reported in Wuhan. The significance of the 13th of January is that it was the first case recorded outside of China, in Thailand. On the 22nd of January, human-to-human contact was confirmed, and on the 30th of January, there were nearly 8,000 cases in the world, and there were 82 in countries outside China, such that on the 11th of March, the World Health Organization called this the pandemic that we know. So it traveled from Wuhan to the world, And in Scotland and in Britain, we kept our borders open. And this is a problem because recent genome expression studies have shown that 1,300 cases came into the UK from abroad. This is done by the COVID Genomics UK study and published just recently. So between the end of February and the middle of March, genotyping using modern second generation genotypes showed that 1,300 cases came in from outside the UK. And if you look at this brief slide only for the bottom picture on the right there, you'll see that actually modern gene sequencing has become so small and so efficient it can be attached to a laptop. This is to prove that there were 3 cases, 2 in a hospital, 1 in a hospital worker, and 2 who knew the same hospital worker. And the question was whether these 2 patients had caught their cases from the hospital worker. But by analyzing the genotype of the COVID in these 3 people, it is possible to show that the hospital worker and the 2 other patients did not have the same isolation. These are all the cases in Scotland and analyzed genotype-wise. The red ones, Mera, is in Scotland Barat, and Scotland Timor is in Hijau, and all the blue arrows are the cases in our hospital. I have a brother, also an Ellis, of course, but not related to Mark, who works for the Scottish government. And these are government statistics modeled using actual death data. And the smooth curve shows the peak being achieved around about the middle to late April and beginning to decline into May. So what did we do in Scotland? These are the various measures. So first of all, when the transmission rate, the R factor, was well above 4 and around about 5, people were told to self-isolate. And this caused a slight drop in the transmission rate. But you'll see from this graph that what really changed it was when people were told to stay at home, and the R rate drops massively to below 1. So staying at home definitely works. At that time, all eye services, apart from emergencies, were shut down. From the 13th to the 16th of March, most hospitals in Scotland shut down eye services completely. Many of the hospitals, including ours, took away our operating theatre, and it was given then to what they thought would be emergency surgeries for other departments and for intensive care units and ventilation. Also, our staff were redeployed, more in some hospitals than in others. This is the international death rates looking at round about mid-February. And you can see that there are just over 1,000 COVID deaths. But look at that in context. We still have much more problems with other diseases which didn't reach the national, international status of COVID. And even up to Friday, when we submitted our slides, COVID deaths, just about 420,000. But actually, the deaths of COVID are less than those of suicide or road traffic accidents, which is just incredible. Now, when I submitted my slides on Friday, this was the global rankings of the countries, USA, UK, and Indonesia. And already that's wrong, because from today, the United Kingdom has slipped into 3rd place because Brazil is now 2nd, but Indonesia is still at 22. And you've had much fewer deaths than we have. And the death rate per million in Indonesia is a lot better than it is in the UK. And in fact, we are worse even than the USA in terms of death per million. But it may be that this reflects proper testing. So what happens to the vitreoretinal workload during that time? Well, as you can see, we had a massive reduction. Now, what we've got here is, because in Scotland we were recording all retinal detachments prior to the outbreak, we knew that in a 5-week period, last year, there were 18 detachments per week in Scotland. And in the same period, mid-COVID, it had dropped to 8. So this would be 950 a year, dropping to about 400 a year. In our own hospital, between the 23rd of March and the 12th of June, we did a total of 59 operations on 52 patients. most of which were VR, and a total of only 6 surgeons operated. Looking at the same period last year, this is the surgical numbers we would have expected. 92 vitreoretinal cases by a total of 21 surgeons. Our outpatient clinic fell from 120 patients a day to less than 10 in the height of the epidemic. And going forward, they tell us we can only see 36 patients a day in one of our sites. So what is the international guidance on whether aerosol generating procedures affect what we do? So the Academy of Ophthalmology, American Academy, has advice about phaco and vitrectomy. We sent out a questionnaire on the 1st of May to all members of the British Vitreoretinal Society. That was 21 days after the college had said that vitrectomy was an aerosol generating procedure. Since then, the UKISCRS, Philip Bloom, professor, has said phaco is not. The American Academy, phaco is probably not. The Glaucoma Society, glaucoma surgery is not AGP. This is the response of the vitreoretinal surgeons. How many of you thought it was an aerosol generating procedure? And the answer is that 3/4, 71% thought that vitrectomy is not aerosol generating. So how do we keep surgeons safe? What is your risk in the COVID era if you are wearing a droplet mask but not full FP or PP3? Now, if you assume all patients have been tested and are negative and are given 3 days wait, and they keep themselves in their house if they can, and at entry to hospital, you simply ask if they have a cough or a fever, what is the risk to us as staff operating? So what would you need to know? You would need to know the prevalence of COVID, the sensitivity of the test and the specificity of the test. What is the transmission rate in phaco if it is passing up the virus into the atmosphere? How many patients could have no symptoms in the kind of age group, the over 70s, where we do most of our cataract surgery? And how many cataracts do we do per year? And finally, how many days prior to symptoms can you transmit the virus? Now, we know the answer to most of these questions. So the prevalence in the UK, the best study we have, is 1 in 400. The test is only 0.7. It's only 70% sensitive, but it is highly specific, 99% specific. And if we say that 1/4 of patients are capable of catching the virus from the inhalation, and 15% are asymptomatic, but even if we assume a huge number are asymptomatic, and this is the number of cataracts we normally do per year in my hospital, but it's going to be massively reduced in going forward into the pandemic. And then we reckon that a virus can be secreted for up to 3 days before you become symptomatic. So the question is your risk, multiple choice, 30%, 15%, 6%, or even less? What you need to know is if it's 1 in 400 of 10,000 patients, 25 will have COVID and will test in that way. The remaining 9,900 will not have COVID. And even with a very specific test, there'll be quite a few false positives. And that's how the numbers look. Now, everyone remembers that the sensitivity is 0.7 and the specificity is 0.99. That is true, and it doesn't change regardless of the prevalence of COVID. However, the negative predictive value, what is the probability that if you test negative, you are negative? And that changes massively with prevalence. And with a low prevalence of 1 in 400, the negative predictive value is 99.9%. What is wrong with that model? The answer is it's too simple because it is only looking at one test, that is the swab test. But in fact, we have a second test, which is asking the question to the patient, do you have symptoms? If the patient tests positive, they get no surgery. And if they answer the question saying they have a cough or a fever, they get no surgery. So the only way a patient can have surgery is if they are negative to both tests. And that changes these figures so that in fact the sensitivity goes up to 0.85 and the specificity down to 0.84. And that gives a negative predictive value of 99.95%. That is 5 patients in every 10,000. So if you did 10 years of work with 20 surgeons, 2 in theatre at any time, and if you had a 1 in 4 risk of inhaling aqueous vapor and catching COVID, even if we assume that COVID is in aqueous, which it may not be, you would catch COVID once in every 2 medical lifetimes. So the answer to the multiple choice question is that it doesn't even come onto the chart. The risk of catching COVID is 0.006% when you go into theatre. In conclusion, COVID has been in Scotland a disaster for prevention of blindness. Even if we don't talk about the irreversible loss, the diabetic patients who have gone blind, with reversible blindness, if 1,000 people wait for cataract surgery and get worse, and a quarter get bad enough to be legally blind and wait a year for surgery, that is 250 sight years lost due to COVID. But we won't know these numbers until we look back. I would say moving forward, aerosol generating is not a concern, and social distancing in clinics and theatre, both in Scotland and in Indonesia, are going to be considerable challenges for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. John. Very great presentation. Dr. John, we will comments on the bottom of your Zoom player. You can share it at any time during the webinar. Okay, let me call for the second speaker, Dr. Mark Ellis. Please, admin, could you? Okay, thank you. Dr. Mark Ellis, an ophthalmologist from Australia, fellow of the Royal College of Ophthalmology, one of the founding members of Australasian Society of Cataract and Refractive Surgery. Dr. Mark Ellis completed his medical education at University of Melbourne, Australia. He has been awarded as member in the General Division of the Order of Australia for significant service to medicine in the field of ophthalmology and to eye health in Indonesia and Timor-Leste. We have amazing 12 years partnership with him as the team leader of Sumba Eye Program, a program for blindness eradication in East Indonesia. He has been granted also an honorary lecture from Hasanuddin University last year. Today, he's going to deliver 15 minutes presentation about eye care services in Australia during pandemic that may help us to see the differences on how Australia facing the pandemic in their eye care services. Dr. Mark, welcome. You can share your screen now. You have 15 minutes.
Oh, I had it. Oh, where is it gone? Sorry, I'll just try and bring it up again. Sorry, I had it all ready to go. Here we go.
It's okay.
Hang on. I had it there, sorry. Will it share now? Here it comes. Right.
Okay,
and
thank you.
sorry, I just can't get it off the other thing into the slideshow. Let's see if it'll work now. Okay, apologies. And look, thank you for having me. It's John, that was a terrific talk, and I hope to give a different slant on it. I have worked, I'm an anterior segment surgeon. I have worked, as you pointed out, with the Makassar boys for a long time. Now I'm just trying to find, yeah. So look, the way I look at this is you got to look at the nature of the beast. Whenever you go against an enemy, you know thy enemy. So we've got the coronavirus here, which has been successful in humans with a long incubation period, 5 to 28 days. You need to know what it does. It generates by people coughing, sneezing, exhaling, and the drops are very heavy, so they tend to drop to the floor. So you've got the two situations being infected by the virus being close to people and by touching contaminated surfaces plus your eyes, nose and mouth. And as you know, the major symptoms are fever, dry cough and tiredness. Conjunctivitis and loss of taste and smell is an interesting one as well. Now, the prevention, we've been told, is lots of frequent hand washing. And in Australia, everyone's going around with their little bottle of disinfectant, and as a 1.5 metre distance is what we've been asked. And the question is whether you should wear a mask or not. Now, why is Australia unique? Because we're an island nation. We have effective borders, where our quarantine is more effective. And a week ago when I submitted the slides, Australia only had 7,000 cases with a recovery and 102 deaths. And of course, this is Australia compared to Indonesia. Australia, we tend to populate around the coast. So I'm going to talk about the Victoria. I come from the state down south in Australia, Victoria. I come from Melbourne. And look, this is what we've been told to do. Being told to avoid crowds. We had a general lockdown in mid-March, and basically a state of emergency was declared where they're easing up on the 21st of June. And today there's even some more easing up on the restrictions. Now, what we were told to do is work at home. John's effectively pointed out how it worked. No social contacts, no meeting. At the start, we could only meet 2 people. Now 20, and as from today, 50. Now, no schools, it was homeschooling. Essential services, believe it or not, dry cleaning was an essential service to medical and allied health. We had restaurants surviving on takeaway only. Streets were deserted, so I got to work very fast. And there was no sport. And I took no proper football, you know, not your Sepak bowler, but proper Australian rules football. In fact, we've just started this weekend back. Now, this is to give a bit of an experience of what's happened in Australia. You can get your gallery view out of the way. You can see the whole chart. But in Victoria itself, you had 1,607 confirmed cases, 19 deaths. But I'd like to take you down here because this is the thing. We were infected by people coming into Australia. Most of the people traveled, they came via, well, China, but also on the boats. You would have heard about the Princess Ruby and the big embarrassment with the people bringing the virus into Australia. And then there were the confirmed contacts, and then, of course, the ones that you don't know. Now, we take the state of Victoria, as you know, it's crowded. This is the metropolitan area. This is where most of the active cases were. This over here is the ski fields, which we're all back skiing at the moment. So it shows you it's where people congregate in masses. Now, just to give you an idea, my daughter brought my new granddaughter. She's about 4 months old then. She's much older, but this is what we're allowed to do. They sat out on the street and said hello to us from over the fence of our house. On the right, you can see our little alcohol rub. So we're washing the whole time. I wanted to get Easter eggs at Christmas. The shop is right up there. We had to stand 1.5 meters. There are only 3 people allowed in the shop. And you can see on the ground the signs telling us to keep apart. This is the street of my practices up the road. Now, even our playgrounds were locked down. That's opposite our house. No one was allowed in the playground because it congregated people to spread the virus. We couldn't go, that's my golf shop there. On the ground, safe distances, only 5 were allowed into the shop. So what does it mean for ophthalmology? Well, we were restricted. We had less patients, 50% less patients. My surgery was restricted to 25%. I usually do, say, 8 cataracts a list. I could only do 2 a list. And the whole idea was social isolating. The surgical considerations were the aerosol nature, but also to try and maintain our equipment for the so-called outbreak when it got worse. So what were the repercussions? We had less training opportunities, less surgery to learn, and the examinations at council, they've just been reapplied. Our national exams will be in December now. It was quite interesting when I was at a web seminar, we talked about glaucoma management, because in Australia, a lot of it is with medications. And of course, compliance is the issue if they're not seeing the patients and following it up. So there was less follow-up. Also, people were not presenting with eye problems because they were too scared to get the COVID. And I should just mention mental health problems, because there was a lot of problems going on with people in isolation. Now, are ophthalmologists at risk? Well, who was the first person to die from it? The whistleblower in China. So ophthalmologists are at risk. The COVID, conjunctivitis, as you see, 0.8%, or in other cases, 30% or 31.1% 6% has COVID in the conjunctivitis that people present. And also you can see with the SARS, the tear film and conjunctival secretions have got the SARS. So you've got a virus that's shown viability in the aerosol and on surface. You've got infected.
Okay.
Okay. You got infected. Is that going too fast? You got the infected patients.
The signals.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Well, I'll keep on going. So so we're talking about the close contact, and basically, what does it do? The practice. Well, in my practice, that's the sign to enter the practice. That is my rooms, and we do have the guidance for the microscope. The considerations for surgery, well, in its way, not many people follow it, but for the visual fields, we have been cleaning internally. That's one of our orthoptists. Everyone's dressing in surgical gear because they can wash it at the end of the day. So coming to the clinics, even the hospital for me to operate, my temperature is taken. I must wash my hands as I enter. This is my secretary's room where they come through. This is the clinic room, and you can see every person sits on every second seat. This is the hallway to my room. Chairs are changed around so no one can sit on it to maintain social distancing. So an ophthalmologist, what's going to happen when it all goes? We're going to be seeing more patients, more surgery, but what a lot of people are pulling out of private health insurance because of the unemployment issues that have been brought on by the COVID. For Victorians, you've got the open entertainment venues, but the problem is public transport. People are too scared now to go on public transport, even though the trains and trams are cleaned down every night. So we're looking at the future that there's going to be an economic recession with more unemployment. So there's a lot of flow on from the COVID. And sorry, I had to rush that towards the end to get my 15 minutes in. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mark, Ellis, for an interesting presentation. Actually, you have still around 3 minutes time, but okay.
I'll have 3. Oh, gee, okay, I can keep on talking forever. But no, but seriously, the big problem is the mental. I think I've spoken enough, but it is the mental issues a lot of people are worried about, and the unemployment. A lot of the youth are unemployed. That's our big problem now. Over to you guys.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Dr. Mark Ellis. We will back to you for the discussion in the end of the session.
Sure.
And for all the audience, your thoughts and your opinion are matters. So ask questions, share comments, even challenge our ideas. Use the chat panel on the bottom of your Zoom player to share at any time during the webinar. I can also see that Dr. John Ellis already answered some questions. Thank you, Dr. John. Well, I want to introduce our last speaker for this session. For the admin, please help to share the CV.
Is that better now? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our third speaker is Dr. Muhammad Abrar Ismail, an ophthalmologist from Indonesia, cataract surgeon in Hasanuddin University Hospital. He was a healthcare executive in Asia Leadership Training in Singapore, 2016. He is the present head of study program of ophthalmology department, Hasanuddin University. Dr. Abrar completed his medical education in Hasanuddin University. He is the coordinator of scientific program of PERDAMI SulSel. He also a member of Indonesian Association of Cataract and Refractive Surgeon. Today, he's going to share about teaching and training ophthalmology during pandemic, UNHAS experience. In 15 minutes, I am sure that his presentation will be very interesting to inform us the big differences in Indonesia eye care services during this pandemic. Dr. Abrar, welcome. Please share your presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Irfan.
Thank you.
I'm going to share my presentation.
Welcome.
Good morning to John and Andy in Scotland. And I'm sure it's good night for you, Mark, in Melbourne. Selamat siang. Salam sejahtera buat kita semua. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hari ini, saya akan membawakan presentasi saya mengenai experience UNHAS during this time. Saya referring this time karena kita semua tahu this time itu apa itu. Nah, UNHAS experience. Nah, ini forgive us, Dr. John, Mark, and Andy. I will continue. I think I'm going to continue in Bahasa. So I'll try to do it half and half. Ini kami dulu bahagia tersenyum satu sama lain. Ya, sekarang sih masih tetap tersenyum bahagia tapi pakai masker. Ini awal Maret. Bahwa ini masih sedikit kasus confirm di Indonesia. Bahwa ini masih kita masih kurang disiplin pakai masker dan sebagainya. Pas foto kita buka masker dan sebagainya. Ini masih belum ada confirm case di Makassar. Nah, ini kami pada posisi sekarang. Nah, di sebelah kiri di layar itu ada yang highlight merah kuning, itu adalah mereka teman-teman kita pada training atau staffnya kita yang harus isolasi mandiri, harus melakukan pemeriksaan karena kena memang ada riwayat kontak atau memang positif tested untuk PCR untuk COVID-19. Ini pakaian sehari-hari kami di Poli jadinya pada saat memeriksa pasien. Nah, kelihatan bahwa kami harus bekerja dengan ini yang putih-putih saja yang bisa kita gunakan, baik residen maupun staff. Yang lain harus menepi, harus isolasi mandiri, dan yang alhamdulillah semuanya recovery dengan minimal simptom. Nah, dengan kondisi seperti ini adalah gambaran klinik kami akhir-akhir ini, mulai dari Maret sampai sekian, pasien sangat turun dari kunjungan 150-an sehari menjadi tinggal 10%. Kemudian pada sebulan 2 bulan yang lalu kami memutuskan untuk menutup poli 2 hari. Jadi poli mata hanya dibuka 3 hari seminggu dengan tenaga supervisor juga dibagi sekali seminggu, dan teman-teman residen itu harus attend hanya sekali seminggu dengan maksimum 3 hari dalam sebulan mereka attend. Nah, pertanyaannya adalah kami adalah penyelenggara program pendidikan dokter spesialis. Kami menyelenggarakan pendidikan residensi, dan otomatis pendidikan akan sangat terganggu dengan pelayanan kita yang hanya seperti dengan kondisi ini. Jadi pertanyaannya, kita postpone atau kita lanjut? Kemudian kalau kita memang postpone, sampai kapan kita harus postpone? Ataukah ada cara bagaimana kita bisa memaintain ini proses teaching and training? Nah, jadi kami belajar, kami cari jalan karena ini adalah situasi yang baru, semua juga baru belajar, dan tidak ada guideline, tidak ada referensi sebelumnya, tidak banyak referensi tentang pembelajaran jarak jauh misalnya yang bisa kita ikut, terutama untuk pendidikan residensi, karena ini adalah proses training. Kita tidak tahu ya apa yang kami lakukan, kita learning by doing. Jadi kita belajar. Ini adalah awal Maret kemarin, ini Dr. Ichsan di Poli, Dr. Faisal, ini kami belajar menggunakan Zoom, interaksi dengan Zoom pada kami mencoba berapa modalitas web conference. Kami merasa Zoom sangat user friendly. Kami belajar menggunakan, Dr. Faisal juga belajar berinteraksi. Kami belajar, kami cari referensi. Ini salah satu yang menginspirasi pada awal-awal masa pandemi di Indonesia. Ini adalah dari UI. Ini memberikan contoh bagaimana medical student under S1 itu mensubmit video ke skill untuk dinilai pada supervisor. Mereka menggunakan alat apa saja yang bisa dilakukan di rumah. Ini sangat menginspirasi kami. Kemudian kami apply setelah belajar cari referensi, kami menggunakan alat yang tools yang kita punya, yang kami friendly dengan ini. Kami pakai Zoom, Google Form, kami sudah lebih terbiasa menggunakan Google Form. Kami punya kapasitas Google Drive yang besar. Jadi kami menggunakan modalitas ini untuk kami olah menjadi sebuah model pembelajaran. Dan inilah kami berubah dari model diskusi kasus langsung, pembelajaran di poli, menjadi semuanya serba online. Semua digantikan diskusi, presentasi, dan sebagainya, semua diskusi online dengan penilaian. Kalaupun ada penilaian, kami menggunakan Google Form dan sebagainya. Bagaimana dengan wet lab? Kita pendidikan oftalmologi itu sangat bergantung pada keterampilan proprioseptif motorik halus. Kami harus menjaga itu. Jadi bagaimana berubahnya kami dari wet lab yang ramai tiap hari ini dibuat menjadi wet lab yang paling banyak 2 orang dalam satu sesi wet lab dengan tetap menggunakan APD. Bimbingan operasi yang biasanya kita lakukan di kamar operasi, ini kami rubah, kami beradaptasi menggunakan Kitaro. Ini kami buat box, ini kami kirim ke rumah residen. Ini supaya residen bisa belajar di rumah, tetap bisa latihan operasi menggunakan magnifying glass. Mungkin tidak akan sebagus menggunakan mikroskop, setidaknya tangan mereka tetap terlatih. Jadi ini box beredar dengan gosen kemana-mana. Dan itu hasilnya di submit. Nah, berikutnya teaching dan training itu tidak akan sempurna tanpa assessment karena semuanya sangat berkaitan. Tidak akan sempurna proses pendidikan kalau tidak kita lakukan assessment. Ini satu hal yang sangat penting dalam proses pendidikan. Sekarang bagaimana kita assess, bagaimana kita bisa menggantikan proses pendidikan, proses writing exam, kami melakukan oral exam, ataukah bagaimana kita menggantikan OSCE, bagaimana kita menggantikan DOPS dan sebagainya. Nah, ya kita kembali ke basic, tidak ada referensi, kita buat saja. Bahwa ini adalah kalau kita menyadari bahwa pentingnya assessment dalam pendidikan, ya kita cari jalan. Ya kalau kita tidak menyadari pentingnya, ya ini adalah eksekusi yang bagus, kita lagi pandemi kok. So, ya kami buat assessment dengan penilaian dengan menggunakan online. Kemudian sebelumnya kami ini banyak terinspirasi juga dari komisi ujian dan beberapa yang lain. Kami minta residen teman-teman itu mau submit video skill apa yang kami minta di mana mereka berotasi. Untuk ujian kami menggunakan Google Form, dan ini adalah suasana ujian written. Jadi teman-teman residen itu di rumah dengan menggunakan Zoom, kami mengawas, kami menggunakan 2 device untuk Zoom, dibantu dengan cermin buat teman-teman merasakan bahwa mereka betul-betul diawasi dalam proses ujiannya. Kemudian bagaimana dengan skill exam? Ini adalah model ujian skill. Jadi teman-teman residen itu men-submit videonya, kemudian kita ujikan pada saat proses ujian simultan ini. Jadi pada akhir Mei kemarin kami melakukan ujian simultan untuk 9 subdivisi. Itu simultan bersamaan para supervisor menguji residen teman-teman yang pada akhir rotasi. Yang seharusnya kemarin itu sudah keluar pada saat bulan Maret. Jadi ini kita lihat Dr. Noro ini subdivisi glaukoma di retina, ini adalah video dia mempraktekkan injeksi intravitreal. Ini adalah Dr. Yanti dan tim di pediatric ophthalmology. Di sebelah sini ada kami mempraktekkan ujian refleksi diri. Ini Dr. Habibah dan Dr. Ichsan menguji teman-teman dari subdivisi vitreoretina. Ini proses ini tim yang bertugas Ini kita bisa lihat ini Dr. Habibah juggling di antara 3 device, satu untuk akses video, satu untuk lihat Zoom, dan satu lagi untuk mensubmit nilai. So, kami harus beradaptasi dengan itu. Nah, bagaimana hasilnya? Nah, sekarang terima kasih Dr. Irfan, ini kami menilai, kami membuat penilaian. Nah, ini adalah jumlah kegiatan ilmiah. Tabel sebelah kiri adalah jumlah kegiatan ilmiah yang kita lakukan perbandingan dari tahun 2020 ini. Nah, ini antara Januari sampai awal Maret adalah pertemuan offline. Rata-rata setiap bulan sebelum pandemi adalah 50 kegiatan ilmiah yang kami laksanakan tiap bulan. Nah, selama pandemi dan seterusnya ini kita lihat ini trennya meningkat. Kenapa? Karena tidak ada jarak lagi, karena pertemuan offline kita butuh ruangan dan sebagainya. Dengan menggunakan online ini jadwal kita bisa atur, kita bisa bagi beberapa ini simultan. Utilisasi hari. Sebelumnya kegiatan ilmiah kita terjadwal hanya hari Senin, Kamis, dan Jumat. Pada akhir-akhir ini kami menggunakan hari Sabtu pun tetap bisa kita laksanakan. Sekarang keterlibatan dosen. Nah, kalau kita lihat rata-rata ini rasio dosen per kegiatan yang hadir pada saat kegiatan offline itu hanya 3-4 dosen per kegiatan. Dengan menggunakan metode online ini rata-rata 7-8 ini rata-rata kehadiran dosen per kegiatan ilmiah. Nah, ini adalah data hasil nilai keluar subdivisi. Sebelum pandemi ini, nilai rata-rata ujian tulis adalah 70,8 dan setelah ini berkurang menjadi 61,62 dengan angka remedial peserta adalah 20%, sedangkan pada setelah pandemi ini 71% remedial incidence-nya. Kemudian untuk ujian skill ini angka remedial itu 10%, sedangkan nilai ujian adalah rata-ratanya 76,62, sedangkan setelah pandemi angka remedial 0% dengan skill nilai rata-rata adalah 84,51. Nah, pencapaian portofolio kasus per subdivisi rata-rata sebelum pandemi adalah 94,26%, dan setelah pandemi ini jelas saja menurun karena kasusnya berkurang, walaupun kami sudah menambah rotasi hingga 2 bulan, pencapaiannya hanya sekitar 84,8%. 360 assessment itu workplace-based assessment. Mungkin pada saat pandemi ini teman-teman punya empati yang lebih tinggi hingga memberi nilai lebih baik. Nah, mungkin ini data masih belum banyak kami eksplorasi. Ya, kemungkinan pada saat written exam itu ujian teori, teman-teman masih psikologis belum terlalu bagus, suasana belajar belum adaptasi dengan kondisi ini. Kemudian skillnya, nilai skill, ujian skill itu lebih bagus dibandingkan pada saat ujian OSCE dan yang lain. Ujian video adalah lebih bagus nilainya karena mereka harus mensubmit video yang paling bagus dan mereka perform itu direkam, mereka perform mungkin tanpa tekanan dibandingkan pada saat OSCE mereka dinilai langsung, mereka mungkin tertekan. Portofolio ini kita mengkompensasi jelas karena ada kelebihan 2 bulan, walaupun itu harusnya kami harusnya sih rata-rata mencapai target, tapi sekarang maksimal hanya 80 sekian persen. Ini kami melakukan survei pada peserta PPDS kami. Dari 57 peserta PPDS ada 54 sampel. Dari ini pendapat mereka bagaimana pencapaian kompetensi. Ini di atas 50%, sekitar 70% itu menyatakan bahwa pencapaian mereka di atas 50 sampai 90%. Begitu juga dengan skill hampir 90% menyatakan bahwa mereka sudah mencapai kompetensi ini. Nah, bagaimana program studi? Kami juga minta mereka menilai performance dari program studi. 38,9% menilai baik sekali, 51% itu menilai baik, selebihnya cukup. Ya, alhamdulillah nggak ada yang kurang, menilai kami kurang. Kalau ada yang kurang, kami akan cari orangnya. Oke.
Abrar, you have 2 minutes. 2 menit lagi.
This is a summary. Ini suggestion dari mereka. Ini kami summary saja dari berbagai apa yang mereka harapkan pengganti proses pembelajaran. 42% tetap minta ini online classroom dan sebagainya, seterusnya. Ada yang minta offline, kan ada yang merasa bahwa kami belum belajar skill, kami butuh offline. Kemudian direct discussion itu rata-rata meminta bagaimana lebih enak satu lawan satu dengan supervisornya. Bukan pembelajaran classroom, walaupun online mereka mau diskusi 1:1. Kemudian ada beberapa yang meminta bahwa kalau dia senior, mereka minta tetap ditugaskan di poli untuk membantu. Walaupun kami tugaskan mereka cuma sekali seminggu, mereka mau sih terus-terus aja tugas. Apa yang kami pelajari hari ini tentang pendidikan kami, ya kami pelajari bahwa kami harus mempush ini experience, karena training itu adalah pushing experience. Jadi kita harus mencari cara bagaimana cara ini experience kita berikan kepada peserta kita. Dan satu hal yang kita itu manusia sangat adaptable untuk perubahan unjust apabila kita mau. Kira cukup dari saya. Terima kasih. Kira cukup. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Dr. Abrar, amazing presentation. Saya yakin banyak pertanyaan. I'm sure that participants have lots of questions for this session, and also I can see a lot of questions already answered, but we still have time. We will choose maybe one question first for each speaker. Dr. Melita and Dr. Ilham, bisa tolong di-share dan dibacakan pertanyaan yang telah dipilih.
Thank you, Doctor. We have so many questions here, but this one is not answered yet. For Dr. John, this is the question from Dr. Amir Siddiq. Real-time PCR is considered expensive, especially in Indonesia. Is there any other pre-op screening other than PCR test, such as complete blood count or thorax X-ray?
Okay, Dr. John Ellis, may I have your comment for the first question from Dr. Amir about PCR? Could you, okay, admin bisa tolong di unmute, please. Could you unmute your mic? Oh, you cannot unmute. Admin, bisa tolong dibantu. Admin, please help to unmute Dr. John.
Thank you. We're good. We're good. Okay, good.
Yes.
Let me answer the second question first. Are other tests any good? The problem with chest X-ray or blood count would be that it would only detect not COVID, but sick patient with COVID. And we know that healthy patients with COVID could still excrete the virus. So protecting one old patient from the next old patient or member of staff from the patient would not work with blood count or chest X-ray. We use the nasal and throat swabs. I don't think they are all around the world. I think there's a shortage of testing kits. It is a problem, but it may be that just if the patient can self-isolate and you take a history for those 3 cardinal symptoms of temperature, anosmia, lack of smell, and recent cough, that may be enough for safety.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. John. I hope you answered the question for Dr. Amir. And Dr. Ilham,
Yeah.
can we have other question?
Yeah, we have the second question
For
from
Dr.
Dr. Andreas Surya to Dr. John and Dr. Mark.
Okay.
If planning surgery even by local anesthesia, prior the surgery, do you recommend the patient to have the COVID-19 test before? And how do you perform the ROP screening and retinal cases requiring indirect ophthalmoscopy during this pandemic?
Okay, thank you. Maybe
Mark, can I
can
answer
go
first? Or?
Oh, okay. Please, Dr. John Ellis.
The reason I've jumped in is because I work in 2 hospitals. In one hospital, they said you must have a COVID swab negative before theatre. In the other hospital, they said you don't need a COVID swab before theatre. What that shows you is that governments have not made up their mind about what is the right way to proceed. I think if a patient if the patient can self-isolate and has no symptoms, that is probably sufficient. So I don't think we need to have a test. That's my answer. ROP, in the data I showed 57 cases, 2 of those procedures were ROP treatments for babies. And one of those was an intravitreal Lucentis for the baby. I think the binocular indirect is good because you have a slightly greater distance between you and the patient. And the IVT, I've posted up a text there, which many of you may have read, saying that if you put the mask on the patient, there have been 2 cases of endophthalmitis with the isolates in the vitreous tap were very similar to mouth flora. And there's a video on YouTube or Vimeo showing that when somebody inhales smoke and breathes out inside a mask, some of the vapor goes up to the eye. So I would suggest that you don't put a mask on the patient when you're doing IVT injections of Avastin.
Oh, okay. Thank
Mark.
you very much, Dr. John Ellis. What about Dr. Mark Ellis? Can we have your comment about the question? Dr. Mark?
Mark, can you unmute yourself?
Admin bisa tolong dibantu unmute.
Mark is muted, yeah.
I'm unmuted now. Look, John, that was very well said. The one thing that strikes me is that with the injections, that's when the infection goes in. I can't see how a person breathing would go get an infected eye unless it's a leaking wound with the injection. But to answer your question, in Australia, no, we don't do testing. In fact, for a time, we had not enough equipment. So then it was restricted to just the symptoms. Now anyone can go get a test, but you still have to have symptoms. And the government will do it for free. But no, we don't restrict with the surgery, to my knowledge, in the hospitals I'm working with. The only thing is everyone going to the hospital has to have a temperature check. And actually, I had a patient who was on tamoxifen and getting hot flushes, and she was made do a teleconference from the car park of the clinic because they wouldn't see her inside.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mark Ellis and John Ellis. Dr. Melita atau Dr. Ilham, do we still have question?
Yeah,
Before Dr. Abrar.
Iya, dokter. Ini masih ada. We still have so many questions. Maybe the 3 speakers can manage to answer. How do you manage to train residents skill during pandemic? Pertanyaan question from Dr. Isfianto.
Okay, maybe Dr. Abrar. Dr. Abrar bisa menjawab pertanyaan ini, dok. Terlebih dahulu, kemudian mungkin akan ditambahkan oleh Dr. John dan Dr. Mark.
Baik, terima kasih Dr. Irfan. Sebenarnya kalau untuk skill-skill yang sangat spesifik tentu saja akan sulit kami ajarkan dari rumah, apalagi yang menggunakan alat yang spesifik. Nah, yang sederhana yang bisa kami lakukan adalah seperti tadi kami melakukan mengajarkan sisi dengan menggunakan kitaro, itu dikirimkan ke rumah dan menggunakan magnifying lens, mereka latihan di situ. Nah, yang lain kalau yang menggunakan alat yang lebih kompleks, misalnya indirect ophthalmoscope, itu harus dilakukan di rumah sakit. Nah, pada kondisi seperti ini kami tidak menganjurkan menggunakan Windows Direct saja untuk safety. Kemudian indirect ophthalmoscope kami anjurkan. Kemudian tentu saja dengan pasien tetap menggunakan masker dan menggunakan PPE pada presiden. Kemudian skill-skill yang lain bisa saja misalnya pemeriksaan fisis palpebra ataukah tosis ataukah pemeriksaan neurooftalmologi itu bisa mereka praktekkan pada teman satu sama lain itu, dan teman-teman itu mensubmit videonya, itu mereka praktis dengan teman-temannya selama residen pada saat mereka jaga. Saya kira itu dari saja. Terima kasih.
Can I point out just one thing? Because the one thing that was striking is doctors are very careless with their hygiene between patients. We get busy, we don't wash as much. This has taught us to be so careful. So I think that's something that's very good for the students. They'll learn to be careful, to wash the hands every time. Because I know from experience, I'd get busy and in the past I wasn't that good, but I've been very good now.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mark Ellis. Dr. John Ellis, do you have any comment about skills and training? Admin bisa tolong dibantu di unmute Dr. John Ellis.
He's run
Thank
off.
you. I after that, I don't really have much to add. What I would just say is, if you're wearing the full FP3 mask in the operating theatre, communication is difficult. And we've had one operative mistake where a nurse gave the wrong piece of equipment to the surgeon because the mask made it difficult to hear. So I'm training a junior surgeon during the COVID, and it is difficult, but that's a small issue.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you for all your questions. I'm really sorry we cannot answer or comment all of you due to limited time, but you can still ask in the chat panel of the bottom on the bottom of your Zoom player. Thank you. Eye care services surely have changed a lot during this pandemic era. Each health center have different approach during pandemic. The condition of each country and situational condition really related to the changes. The changes also was dynamic based on the situational analysis. It could be more strict or loosened. The main thing is we have to analyze the risk of each changes and consider does the benefit was more than the risk and safe for ophthalmology, nurse, hospital or clinic staff, and most importantly for the patient. And one thing that directly influences is the teaching and training program that basically use eye care services as one of their learning place. Dr. Abrar already tell a little about it. But if you want to know how pandemic affected teaching and training program during the pandemic, don't go anywhere because we will shortly continue our webinar to the second session, which will give you answers to those questions. That is all the time we have for our first session webinar today. Thank you for all our speakers, Dr. John Ellis, Dr. Mark Ellis, and Dr. Muhammad Abrar. From now, Dr. Melita and Dr. Ilham will continue the event. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you, Dr. Ivan. Thank you, Dr. John and Dr. Mark.
Terima kasih Dr. Irfan. Untuk acara selanjutnya ini Dr. Melita juga telah hadir bersama kita. Dr. Hasnah Eka, spesialis mata konsultan. Kami undang kepada Dr. Hasnah. Selamat siang, Dokter. Selamat siang, Dr. Hasnah. Ya, bagaimana keadaannya, Dokter? Sehat, Dokter?
Alhamdulillah sehat. Terima kasih.
Dr. Hasna. Beliau akan membawakan break session berjudul Management of Blepharitis and Dry Eye Syndrome. Dr. Hasna merupakan dokter mata konsultan bagian infeksi imunologi dari Universitas Hasanuddin, dan beliau merupakan staf pengajar bagian mata dari Universitas Hasanuddin. Kepada Dr. Hasna kami persilahkan, dokter.
Ya, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan selamat sore dan good morning for John and Dr. Andrew and good afternoon for Mark. Ya, terima kasih kepada panitia yang telah mengundang saya. Izinkan saya kali ini untuk sedikit membahas tentang bagaimana dry eye dan blepharitis. Mungkin dahulu kita berpikir bahwa blepharitis dan dry itu adalah suatu kondisi yang berdiri sendiri atau tidak berhubungan. Demikian pula evaporative dry eye dan acoustic deficiency. Tetapi sesungguhnya tidak. Ya, berarti bahwa evaporative dan insufficiency itu merupakan suatu kondisi yang bergabung dan bisa menjadi suatu natural sequelae dari chronic blepharitis. Jadi dry eye adalah merupakan late manifestation daripada blepharitis. Jadi dry eye adalah suatu manifestasi dari blepharitis yang kita sebut dengan dry eye blepharitis syndrome. Blepharitis dan dry eye sendiri mungkin merupakan suatu lingkaran setan, ya, artinya dia saling mempengaruhi. Tetapi jika terjadi suatu kondisi blepharitis, maka dia akan membuat disfungsi daripada kelenjar penghasil air mata, terutama pada bagian lipid dan mungkin pada bagian apusnya. Dan ketidakseimbangan komposisi lapisan air mata ini tentunya akan menyebabkan dry eye. Dan dry ini pun akan menyebabkan blepharitis, tapi blepharitis pun dapat menyebabkan dry eye. Sebenarnya bagaimana patomekanisme sehingga terjadi hubungan di antara keduanya? Kita tahu bahwa flora normal di daerah lid margin kita itu ada. Tetapi pada kondisi jumlah yang normal itu tidak akan mengganggu kalau kita sering membersihkan. Nah, bakteri ini punya suatu strategi dasar dalam hidupnya untuk tetap bertahan hidup dengan membentuk suatu biofilm. Itu adalah suatu struktur di mana bakteri ini akan tetap ada di daerah lid margin kita. Apa yang akan terjadi? Maka akan terjadi suatu overkolonisasi daripada bakteri ini, yaitu bakteri Staphylococcus, dan akan mengaktifkan suatu consensing yang mungkin consensing dan aktivasi gen yang akan menghasilkan faktor virulensi bakteri. Inflamasi kronis akan terjadi, di mana akan dia ganggu. Pertama adalah folikel blumat, dan selanjutnya adalah kelenjar aksesoris. Dengan waktu maka blepharitis akan terjadi secara kronik tahun. Jadi pembentukan biofilm ini adalah suatu strategi daripada bakteri di daerah lid margin kita untuk tetap ada di situ. Nah, berbahaya kalau kita tidak melepaskan biofilm tersebut, maka bakteri komensal ini akan ada semakin tebal, ada di dengan waktu. Jadi penting sekali kita untuk membuang biofilm tersebut. Penebalan biofilm ini akan memperburuk inflamasi sehingga prevalensi blepharitis akan semakin tinggi bersamaan dengan prevalensi daripada dry eye semakin tinggi pada usia lanjut. Apa yang harus kita lakukan? Ya sangat simpel, bahwa tentunya kita selalu menyarankan kepada pasien kita untuk membersihkan daerah lid marginnya, ya, kemudian mengkompres dengan air hangat, dan kalau misalnya sudah terjadi suatu inflamasi yang hebat, tentunya kita harus sudah memberikan antibiotik, baik itu oral maupun salep antibiotik, dan ada antiinflamasi untuk meringankan pasiennya. Dan tidak lupa adalah artificial tears untuk memperbaiki kondisi dry eye ini. Harus kita tahu yang bagaimana yang terbaik untuk pasien-pasien yang terkait dengan blepharitis. Nah, sodium hyaluronat hampir di semua artificial tears mempunyai ini. Ya, gunanya untuk meretensi cairan, menjaga kelembaban permukaan mata. Beta glukan meningkatkan perlekatan antar sel di permukaan mata dan dengan membran sel. Vitamin A kita butuhkan untuk melengkapi nutrisi dan menghambat terjadinya nevaskularisasi kornea. Dan vitamin E juga kita butuhkan. Kelopak mata merupakan bagian yang harus selalu kita bersihkan, tapi sayangnya sangat jarang dibersihkan oleh kita sebagai kebiasaan yang ada studi yang memperlihatkan bahwa kita lebih sering menyikat gigi setiap hari dan dibanding dengan membersihkan bulu mata kita. Nah, kesadaran tentang higienis ini pada mata perlu kita tingkatkan karena akan terbentuk biofilm tersebut. Nah, dengan mengerti jadi suatu blepharitis karena hal tersebut yang telah saya jelaskan, tentunya kita akan memberitahu kepada pasien kita bahwa penting sekali untuk selalu membersihkan daerah lid margin dan memperhatikan jenis artifisial tears apa yang harus kita pergunakan untuk mengatasi kedua kondisi tersebut. Saya rasa untuk presentasi saya cukup. Terima kasih atas perhatiannya dan selamat sore.
Ya, selamat sore. Terima kasih Dr. Hasnah atas presentasinya.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Dr. Hasnah.
Kami menginfokan kepada peserta untuk dapat mengisi polling yang akan di-share. Kami berterima kasih kepada Kalbe Vision yang telah mendukung terselenggaranya acara ini.
Ya, Dokter. Mungkin untuk waktu pengisian polling ini bisa kita estimasikan sekitar berapa menit, Dokter?
Ya, mungkin bisa langsung dimulai saja.
Iya.
Pertanyaannya nggak susah kok, Dokter Ilham.
Iya, iya.
Jadi harusnya jawabnya cepat.
Iya. Ya, silahkan untuk
nanti
seluruh...
Nanti satu soal 1 detik, Dokter Ilham.
5 detik jadi ya, Dokter ya?
Iya, 5 detik.
Ya. Baiklah, silahkan kepada seluruh peserta untuk dapat mengisi polling yang sudah tampil di layar seluruh peserta. Cuma 5 pertanyaan saja, Dokter.
Iya. Mungkin bisa berlanjut next.
Ya, baik Dokter. Sambil kita mengisi polling, akan kita lanjutkan untuk materi kita untuk sesi yang kedua dengan judul Teaching and Training During Pandemic dengan moderator Dr. Andi Pratiwi, spesialis mata. Selamat siang Dr. Tiwi.
Selamat siang Dr. Ilham. Sore ya. Dari Makassar.
Oh ya, selamat sore Dokter. Mohon maaf.
Sore.
Untuk sesi yang kedua ini, untuk mempersingkat waktu, kami persilakan Dr. Tiwi untuk memandu acara kita hari ini.
Terima kasih Dr. Ilham. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon. I am Andi Pratiwi and I'm going to lead the second session of this webinar with the topic Teaching and Training During COVID-19 Pandemic. In this session, we will talk and discuss about teaching and training during the pandemic. And as we all know, this pandemic influences us in many aspects, including teaching and training practices. The question is, how should we perform our training and what is the best method to apply in order to fulfill the needs and also to fulfill the standard of competence? And would this method bring outcomes that we expected? Well, audiences, to answer these questions, we already invited 3 speakers. The first speaker is Professor Dr. Budu, Ph.D. ophthalmologist, consultant, Magister of Medical Education. Please, admin, show the CV screen. Okay, Professor Budu is the present Dean of Faculty of Medicine, Hasanuddin University, and also the President of AIPKI, Asosiasi Institusi Pendidikan Kedokteran Indonesia. He completed his medical education in Hasanuddin University in 1993. He gained his philosophical doctor degree from Toyama Medical and Pharmaceutical University, Japan in 2002, and then he completed his ophthalmologist in Hasanuddin University in 2004. He also continued his educational to Master of Medical Education in Gajah Mada University in 2014. Prof. Budu has actively doing and joined research since 1998 until now, mostly about genetics, and his articles have been published in several journals. Today, he's going to talk about medical education during COVID-19 pandemic, and please welcome Prof. Budu. You have 15 minutes to deliver your presentation. Please admin, share screen. Please admin, help Prof. Budu share screen.
Hello, moderators.
Yes, Prof.
It can be seen well?
Yes.
Okay.
Please, Prof.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, all of us, and our college, all of the speakers. Yeah, John Ellis, Dr. John Ellis, Dr. Andrew, and Dr. Ellis. Happy to meet you again, even just only in the webinar. And we hope we can meet each other physically in the near future when the COVID-19 is finished. And all of the participants, let me to show a little things about how medical education in Indonesia during COVID. And I'm sorry because I just only saw you the medical education in bachelor level, not in residential training. We hope Syntia will show us how University of Indonesia managing residential training. I just only show you in bachelor part of the medical education. COVID-19 pandemic is really a major challenge of us, not just for medical education, but also all of education program in the world and overall, not just learning, but also daily life in the world, all is disturbing by COVID-19, surely also in learning process. This sudden pandemic COVID-19 compelled us to make teaching by virtual approach. And this is the COVID-19, we know, is come to Indonesia on the 1st of March 2020. And from the first, from week to week, was exponentially increased. And now even, I want to inform all of you, even of Dr. Ellis, Dr. Andrew, and Dr. Mark. The Sulawesi now is the third ranking in higher province to have COVID-19. Even South Sulawesi province is the one of red zone in Indonesia. And you can thinking about how we preparing the condition in Makassar to managing the learning, even in the medical education in bachelor, also in residential training. During the time, we really couldn't make learning in classroom. But it is also might be important to inform all of you, all of us, even in our participants from the outside. On the 1st of January 2020, our government, through the new Indonesian Minister of Education and Culture, Mas Menteri Nadiem Makarim, announced is controversial. Some say that this is very controversial for educational policy program, and one of them is we call Merdeka Belajar, freedom of learning. This is related before COVID-19 entered Indonesia on the 1st of March. But really, Merdeka Belajar and freedom of learning is assumed just only a controversial thing. But when the first released by government, not just controversy, but also very make debating together, make many arguments, contention. Even all of us have different opinion, even the disagreement to enter the freedom of learning. Even many public, especially educational public, disputes was the freedom of learning, because some of educational institutions should not ready for. But after the COVID-19 come, this really made us realize how important we are to preparing e-learning, because we cannot enter the classroom. We cannot enter the tutorial room. We cannot enter the skill laboratory room. We cannot enter the practical laboratory room. All of this closed. So to continue the learning process, we have to enter and preparing e-learning. This is just only a sample in Hasanuddin University, and maybe all of institutions in Indonesia on the 1st of April released circular letter, Hasanuddin University circular letter from rector of Hasanuddin University. Please, all of the community of university, please work from home. Not just students, but also educators, managers, and so on have to work from home. That is make us to make the process of learning to be blended online learning. We really move to blended online learning. Fortunately, that Hasanuddin University firstly have tried to have like blended learning, but COVID-19 pushed us to more and more preparing the educational process in the campus to be online learning. This is the example for e-learning. All of students learn from the home. Educators, lectures also releasing the lecture from the home. Coordinator of block is tightly monitor the process of class, but this is very low class because they sit in their home and make lecture. Document of absence and so on also very tightly monitored by the coordinator of the block material. Clinical skill. This is very maybe innovation process. Then this is also very hard work for medical educators in the University of Indonesia. This is this picture taken from Hasanuddin University. Clinical skill is made by students in the home. And they have to demonstrate, they have to make it by self, and then after the clinical skill is made perfectly, the students send to the manager of education. And the manager and coordinator of the block evaluated it, and then maybe in the next, there's some feedback from lecture to the student. So this may be not make decrease of how the student can understand from his learning in clinical skill, because they directly make the skill and directly demonstrate the skill, and then the skill also have a feedback from the lecture. This is the other thing in learning process. Quiz in discussion between the lecturer, between the manager, and also between the student. It's make it every day when the block is running. even also, it is our first time to make doctoral graduation by online. During the process of the work from home, we have done many times to make doctoral graduation from the house. Yeah, the participant also enter like this webinar as well, and then we join the doctoral graduation from home, from office, and from anywhere, because we cannot enter the class and we cannot gather together with many persons. This is also very hard work in learning, online examination, because the challenge of examination is how student is prevent from to see many learning results, to speak each other with their friend, but they have to prepare examination online in their home. But the block manager, educators, and the managers of education in the faculty make tightly the monitor by put a mirror near from the student, and other we can see if someone exists in the round of the student. So fortunately, it can be running well for this 6 month running in online examination. This is the product of self-learning. We have a provider, and we can see what time the student learning access frequently. In fact, in 8 o'clock p.m., student learning more, comparing in the morning, comparing in the afternoon. So we can say that student can learn anywhere and whenever, and even during the rest time in the house. This also we can see the video from educators. Which video of educator watched by student frequently. The example for the Turgita with digital spectrometry and buffer play 870 times see by the student, and total time 171. So we can say that this is very interesting video preparing by the lectures. We can also see the student, who the student study hard in the house, study hard in the home. And we can say that not just in class, the student can learn well, but also in the outside the class. This is the disruption time, because during the time before COVID-19, we have to make students in class 80%. But in this time, the COVID-19, no need to make absence of e-learning. Adrian Hosea Farhayazil Hussein is really come to the class. In the end of my slide, I show you evaluation of e-learning during COVID-19. It is conducted by Student Medical Association around in Indonesia from April 8 to 27, 2020. They make assessment and enroll more than 2,000 students per respondent. Around 86 Faculty of Medicine in Indonesia.
I'm sorry, Prof, you have 2 minutes left.
Okay, thank you. The conclusion is 90% of student freedom learning, with 90% by virtual during the COVID-19. And this is the level of understanding of student. Student, in fact, say we're not fully ready for e-learning, because COVID-19 comes suddenly and make us very busy. And students say that they were not fully ready for e-learning. How about the challenges of the educators? Students say schedule of learning is sometimes irregular. Internet is still low access. Yeah, because we're not so ready for virtual learning by suddenly with COVID-19. The second is, how about tutorial? Yeah, boring and less interactive in problem-based learning tutorial. Students say. How about examination? Yeah, students say, his session say, online exam, yeah, 42% is okay, but there's only 26% feedback. Because maybe they don't have enough Wi-Fi, internet, and so on. Maybe they also not so familiar with internet, not so familiar
Habis
with.
waktunya Prof. Budu.
Okay. So the last stadium from pandemic, online learning really can be adjusted during COVID-19, even this suddenly.
Ya, terakhir ini dok.
Yeah, preparing online learning is mandatory just during COVID, but we have to prepare for the next future. Online is needed via virtual. Virtual skill is important aspect of student and educators. We have to make training for student and for educators. Even the children have to make familiar with virtual access for learning. The last, how about soft skill in virtual learning? That's why we have to prepare blended learning. In other, students can meet with the lecturer and can see the lecture by a role model. Thank you very much, Dr. TV.
Thank you very much, Prof. For the explicit and interesting presentation. We will back to you at the end of the session with discussion. And for audiences, if you have any questions or comments, please use the chat panel on your screen. Well, let me continue our session to the second speaker. Please, admin, show the CV. Okay. The second speaker is Dr. Andrew Pyott. He completed his Bachelor of Medicine and Surgery from Glasgow University in 1986 in Scotland and continued his ophthalmology education in Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Glasgow in 1990. He joined Fellow of Royal College of Ophthalmologists in 1991. He is the current president of Scottish Ophthalmological Club and the head of service of Department of Ophthalmology in Highlands, Scotland. He is actively involved in education as council member of Royal College of Ophthalmologists, member of RCO International Committee, and member of RCO Examination Setting Subcommittee, plus examiner. He has granted as honorary lecturer in Aberdeen University since 2003, and last year also gained honorary lecture from Aberdeen University. And also, he has particular interest in remote and rural ophthalmology and has been serviced for remote islands in Scotland, refugee camp in Palestine, and rural area in Cambodia. Today, Dr. Andrew will talk about teaching and training program in Scotland during pandemic, and I believe his presentation will give us new perspectives and help us to see the differences and how he performed teaching and training in Scotland nowadays. Dr. Andrew, welcome. You have 15 minutes also to deliver your presentation. Please, admin, could you help Dr. Andrew to share his screen?
Okay, selamat siang. Very good to be able to be with you, even if I'm not there in person. And thank you very much to Prof. Budu for giving an excellent description of how we approach these new challenges in this new era. Now, why was Scotland having to shut down so severely? And if you look at the streets in Edinburgh now, normally packed with people, they're empty. Well, I'm afraid in Britain, we are responsible more than any other nation for the aviation contribution to global warming. We fly more than anybody else in the planet. And most of, as John Ellis was saying, that the COVID-19 virus came by a whole series of different individuals, over 1,000 in the UK and over 100 in Scotland, mainly coming from Spain, Italy and Austria, where people were mainly going for their skiing holidays. So it came to us from Europe, not from Asia. Also, our choice of government also played a bit of a part because they made a lot of mistakes, but I better not talk too much about that. It had a big impact on medical students. Their graduation was cancelled. Exams were cancelled. For many of them, they went straight from early qualification into work on the anticipation they'd have to deal with very sick patients. Now, did that compromise the medical degree? Well, not really, because for all the medical schools, there'd been continuous assessment, which meant that they could identify the at-risk students. And so about 5% were made to sit an online exam. And as a result of that, 1 to 2% were made to resit the year that they had failed. For ophthalmic training, there was a big impact. All the training rotations were put on hold because often people are having to travel from one hospital in one part of the country to another every 6 months or a year, and that was not going to be permissible. Many of the trainees were redeployed, and for many of them that was a very worrying and fearful experience, and certainly our trainees in our hospital got really quite anxious at the thought of being relocated to medical wards and having to deal with very sick patients. Many of the postgraduate teaching programs were completely cancelled as we moved into this period of complete chaos. Now, within the UK, we actually have a huge shortage of qualified ophthalmologists. And currently only about 70 complete their training each year. Now, even before the COVID crisis, there were plans to try and reduce basic training to 5.5 years. And so then get all specialty training with subspecialty interest, be it VR or oculoplastics, taken within a 7-year envelope. So there's still a plan to do that, but we cannot afford to have a serious delay in trainees coming out. So every effort is made to try and enable students and doctors to complete their qualification. So at the moment, all Royal College exams have been cancelled, and there's a move to what is called proctored exams. Now, this word proctor is just a fancy word for supervisor. And already we've seen other speakers suggest that you're doing this already in Indonesia with the use of mirrors to make sure that there's no cheating going on. And there are various online systems now available so that you can check the identification of the candidate, webcams not only on the screen but elsewhere within the room to make sure that it is possible to supervise remotely what is going on as the candidate sits the exam in the comfort of their own home. The OSCE exams, the objective structured clinical exams, prior to the crisis, we were already having difficulty having these exams take place within eye departments, and there had been a move last year to have these exams set up in hotel ballrooms with lots of little stations, all equipped with the appropriate equipment. Now, just within the last few weeks, there's been a decision made that these OSCEs will now take place by having videoed examples of patient eye movements or examination of slit lamp findings, BIO findings. So this is a huge step for us within the Royal College to accept that it is not going to be possible to conduct exams in the same way that we did in the past. But of course, we are still determined that we have some means of ensuring that doctors are able to examine properly. And part of this will also be moved back to the training institutions, that they will have to confirm that some of the basic examination can still be done adequately by a candidate. The refraction exam used to involve patients. A decision has been made that this will now only be by simulation with no live patients. So the candidates will have 9 stations where they have different simulated refractions to carry out and also prove that they can use a phasemeter. Now, for each trainee, they have what is called the annual review of competency progression. And this is similar to what I was explaining earlier with the medical students, who are constantly assessed throughout their training to make sure that they are meeting their requirements. Now, normally, as they pass from year 2 to year 3, they should have performed 50 solo cataracts. That will not be possible with all surgery cancelled. So there is an acceptance that as long as somebody has been showing progress that is adequate, that they will be allowed to progress to the next year. Similarly, to go from year 3 to year 4, you should have passed the refraction exam, and this is not possible because the exam has been cancelled. So again, allowance will be made. Now, if you go onto the RCO website, you'll see a huge number of competencies that a doctor has to prove that they have ability. And again, there is still within shutdown the possibility of making sure that these steps are completed, some of them using simulation. And indeed, new competencies are now being created as we realize that we're moving into a very different way of working, such as a competency in how you can adequately conduct a virtual patient interaction. And I mentioned in the chat line that we've been using teleophthalmology quite a lot in this crisis by attaching an iPad onto the back of a slit lamp so that a non-ophthalmologist at a remote setting can take photographs of a patient, be it on an island or in a remote part of our country. And this seems to work very well. And in fact, we've been planning to do this for over a year, and the COVID crisis precipitated very dramatic action, and we started rolling this out. Now, within the Highlands, we've been relatively spared because the COVID crisis has not hit us so badly. We have not had any new cases for well over a month. And just last week, we started resuming normal surgery. The nurses have been very concerned about risk of infection, so our lists to begin with have been very small, which has given us more time for training. And now that we're no longer considering phaco as a significant AGP, this has allowed us to increase the size of our lists. The reduced activity in the clinic has meant there has been more opportunity for discussing cases with the trainees. We're able to do more work-based placed assessments, more direct observation of clinical skills. And this is an example of a gluing that we carried out just last week in someone who had a perforated cornea. And all of this would be, as before, logged onto the e-portfolio. Simulation I've mentioned, and whether you have an IC or some more basic techniques using animal eyes or artificial eyes, there's huge benefit in using this. Obviously, we're all using virtual meetings. It's much safer. To begin with, we were very concerned about trying to have meetings in a closed space. Easier access, you can now attend meetings anywhere in the world, and it's easy to get to them. You don't have to get on a plane or get in a car. But of course, there are disadvantages. We're all aware of the problems with technology letting you down. I certainly find it very difficult to engage with an audience. I've noticed sometimes when we have our departmental meetings that you ask somebody a question and mysteriously the internet starts becoming very difficult. Their bandwidth seems to go slow. And sitting is the new smoking. Sitting all day is really bad for you. And I find it extremely tiring and wearing to go from one Zoom meeting to another. Managing the trainee in difficulty is something that always attracts a lot of interest when we run train the trainers meetings. Well, in essence, the same thing happens as before, that when we have our assessment of how trainees are performing, we meet virtually, not face to face. It's even more important when you have a trainee in difficulty to collect evidence from as many sources as possible. And in the past, I've had a very poorly performing surgical trainee, and literally after every case, I've had to have not only a review of the video with him, but also to go through in extreme detail with a written report, which I send to him every day saying, these are the things that you did okay, these are the things that were not good. And it is so much easier to be able to help a trainee when you've got this clear evidence of where their performance is falling short. And of course, continually setting them new goals that they've got to meet within a particular time frame. Now, it's great to be able to participate in this webinar, and I think back to the 3 very successful Train the Trainer courses that we've been able to run in Indonesia. And the reality is that whilst there's some of this information that we can get over by these remote means, the whole essence of the way in which we run these courses is to make them very interactive. And I just don't think that that is going to be possible. Which gets me back to what I started with at the beginning, that Britons fly more than any other nation. And I mentioned briefly the impact this has on the climate. And you'll all be aware of what the Swedes call flugskam, or flight shame. And here's Greta Thunberg pointing out the harm that we do. And every time I come to visit my dear friends in Indonesia, I have to conclude that my personal emissions of CO2 is nearly 2.5 tons. And that is more than the average Indonesian will emit in a year. And that is a big problem. But these virtual meetings really only work well when you have good friendships and trust. And that's what is the place we're in just now. And so whilst I really benefit being able to contribute in this way, I really look forward to seeing you again soon. And finally, some of you will be aware of the Where's Waldo cartoon character, where there's a little figure hidden amongst a crowd scene. And some people have unkindly said that with my new glasses, I look a little bit like Waldo. And it's a bad time to be Waldo because the whole business model has somehow been thrown into question. And even my bees are now having to keep social distance. We are living in very strange times. And there is a benefit because we are going to be having to work in new ways, and there'll be benefits to that. But it is going to be hard. And we do look forward to much of this social isolation beginning to ease. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Dr. Andy, for the brilliant presentation. We will back to you at the end of this session with discussion. And let me remind back to the audiences that we do appreciate your thoughts. So please put your questions or any ideas in the chat panel on your Zoom screen. To complete our session this afternoon, let me call our third speaker. The third speaker is Dr. Syntia Nusanti, Sp.M consultant. She completed her medical education and ophthalmologist in University of Indonesia. She joined Neuro-Ophthalmology Fellowship in University of Indonesia in 2008 and training in clinical electrophysiology in France, England, and Japan. Currently, she is the head of Neuro-Ophthalmology Division and Medical Faculty of University of Indonesia and Cipto Mangunkusumo Hospital, and also the president of INANOS. She also holds position as the coordinator for National Exam Board in Indonesian Collegium of Ophthalmologists. Today, Dr. Syntia will present about teaching in National Exam Board in ophthalmology training in Indonesia during pandemic. The topic is very important and interesting. Dr. Syntia, please, you have 15 minutes to deliver your presentation.
Yes, thank you, Moderator. And I would like to say thank you to the committee to invite me to speak in this prestigious webinar. And I also like to say thank you, Dr. Muhammad Ichsan. Terima kasih untuk ucapan bela sungkawanya, Dokter. And I would like to say hi to all the speakers, Dr. Andy, Dr. John Ellis, long time no see, Dr. Mark, Prof. Budu, and Dr. Abrar. Sore ini saya akan share tentang teaching dan National Exam Board pada ophthalmology training. Objektif dari share hari ini adalah mengenai residency program dan national examinations. Residency program between competency and safety of the residents and the faculty. We are here in Indonesia. We have 12 institutions, 627 residents all over in Indonesia. I conduct a small survey to the several universities, Universitas Sriwijaya, Universitas Pajajaran, Universitas Indonesia, Universitas Airlangga, Universitas Udayana, Universitas Hasanuddin. The conclusions of the small survey is most of them still have clinical rotations. 2 of the institutions stop the clinical rotations like Hasanuddin and University of Indonesia. Residents are coming to the hospital between 2 to 3 times a week. Patient clinics are mostly able to be together, and the competence only get between 30 to 70%. And all the same problem for all the institutions are cataract surgery competency. I conduct all research about the journal in medical education, same like Dr. Abrar. I found that we have to get 5 strategies to still have a residency program running. The first one is patients and provider safety. We need to have PPE for all the residents or the faculty in proper way. This one is residents and faculty in their polyclinic room. And then this one is, we have a trials in University of Indonesia. Before the patients come to the polyclinic, they will trials by the team. It consists of 1 consultant, 2 4th-grade residents, 1 2nd-grade residents, and 3rd nurse. They're having their full PPE. This one is they are in the ER room. The second one is an uninterrupted necessary care. We make special care for emergency one, like the one you can see here in the flyers. The third one is system sustainability. All one has to be responsible for the program. The university, the teaching hospital, the faculty of medicine, the head of department, the coordinator of patient service, head of study program, even the residents have to have their own part of the residency program. So we need to have evaluation and adaptable from their input to the system. This one is doing by the medical educations of Faculty of Medicine. So we do a questionnaire evaluations for the coordinator, for the residents, and also for the administrations people. The 4th strategy is system adaptability. In March and April, we have traced full team and open 2 general clinic and VR clinic. In April to mid of May, we have also trials in full team, 1 general polyclinic, VR, infections, and other clinic in the same place. In mid-June until now, we have only trials not in full, but all clinics are open, VR and infections every day, and other are 3 to 4 times a week. Resident program are stopped in April and May, and right now, residents start new rotation, and they are in their new rotations. This is if we can see here, the patients is come up week to week. Until now, we already have about 150 patients. So we will need a lot of people to take care of these patients. So we make other rotations for this kind of conditions. This is our ophthalmologist schedules. If we can see, infections is in immunology all days, all days in a 1 week. Retina also all days, but the others is only 2 to 3 times a week. What should we do in the residency training program? The show must go on. We have four things that we have to remember in this residency training program. We have to do a didactic or academic things, surgical, clinical, and assessments. In didactic or academic, we have to increase frequency, increase variations, we using all kind of platform. And I make an example of Universitas of Indonesia. Academic teaching for all residents is done every Monday, Wednesday, and Tuesday with journal reading, case presentation, literature review, and descriptive research. And the emergency report being done every Friday. Division discussions are done every day before and after clinic, and if the resident is on off day. We can do case presentation, we can do topic discussion, we can do examinations, all kind of discussion were done via online. We also did a general lecture that before pandemic, we are rarely doing this. Most of the topic is general for the general ophthalmologists, for the residents. And after that, we put in our YouTube channel so the resident can see after the general lecture being done. And the final research also being done via online. Residents in the Faculty of Medicine Universitas Indonesia has to complete one module of COVID-19. If you can see, this is the topic. This is via online. And after that, they get the certificate for this, and we embedded this certificate or point into one of our modules. And for surgical teaching, from corneal lens and refractive surgery module, usually we have 6 months, 3 months of ECCE, 3 months of phacoemulsifications, and other clinical teaching of cornea, lens, and refractive. The collegium target is 60 individual cataract surgery for all residents. The problem is now no elective cataract surgery, no cataract patients fit for the training, no other teaching hospital rounds, and no mass cataract surgery program. So this part is maybe need to be discussed in the collegium levels. This one is resident done doing their wet lab surgical teaching. And this is courtesy of Lens Cataract and Refractive Surgery Division. They also make discussions of the list of the topic of the cataract, pre, post cataract, oculars versus, you can see here, list of their topic. And at the end, they do a wet lab examinations when the supervisor saw the resident doing the wet lab and also get a formative feedback of the wet lab. This is a suggestion for surgical teaching. We can use a simple 5-step model to teach procedural skill. The first step is tell the learner why. You can use this by doing a discussions of the list of the topic of the surgical. The second one is demonstrate the skill exactly as it should be done. We usually use these operations, but you can use surgical video for this one. Also for the third step and the fourth step, we can use surgical video for doing this. The fifth step is the most harder. The student has to perform the skill. Now we can use a wet lab, dry lab, doing a formative assessment that can be used after the student has the real patients. For the clinical teaching, as Dr. Andrew also mentioned, we can use all kinds of tools to learn to discuss this result with these patients, with the residents. This is the examples of ocular movement examinations, and another one is examples of video of USG. With this one, we can do more discussions of the patients with the residents. Sorry. Suggestion for clinical teaching is doing a remote curriculum, teleconference, telemedicine, examinations video, and case discussions. The above video is for the pandemic. I can use video to teach the resident how to do a confrontations test for the patients, and also do the pupil examinations for the patients. Suggestion for assessment, because here we still have residents coming to the hospital. Not really so much thing to do for us for assessments. We did the same as the before, but the resident is using the PPE correctly. The second part of this talk is about national examinations. In high-stake examination in pandemic era, the question is, can we do a high-stake exam via online? Is the exam will fulfill the psychometric value of assessment? Is it valid? Is it reliable? Is it feasible? And we need to do a reason to do high-stake exam in pandemic era. One of the journal conducted in Singapore, they said the reason is they need more graduated doctor in pandemic era to deal with the pandemic. So they really have to do the high-stake posting. Residency program in Indonesia is university-based. The length of the study are already set according to the curriculum in the university. So in order to become ophthalmologist, the resident should graduate from the university and pass national exam board. A central goal of all organizations like Collegium involved in certifications and license is to set passing standard indicating mastery or competence in the content of skill era deemed important by the profession and measured via examinations. The result is the safe and best practice of ophthalmologists. Before, we also try to make our exam to the Miller pyramid. We do a portfolio exam, the OSCE exam, and also the written exam. Indonesian Collegium of Ophthalmology under Dr. Iwan Sofani and ad hoc committee of national exam doing a several meeting, literature searching, try to design online national exam that most visible for Indonesian pandemic situation, using all our usual instruments, pointed also on psychometric analysis of assessment. We do a briefing for institution, examiner, examinee via online applications. This is before pandemic era. We're doing a paper-based test for the written examinations. In this pandemic era, we do also a written examinations. We did this in their institution. Every candidate have their own laptop, and the PIC from the Committee of National Exam was the area of the room of the examination, while the PIC central will was of their laptop. We have 11 institutions and 52 examinees on the written exam. The application that we use are web-based written exam. The basic was developed by Universitas Pembicara. We have our own part, the kickme.org, and we use the Safe Exam browser. Maybe this is the one that Dr. Andrew said. When we use the Safe Exam browser, so the candidate cannot open any browser or anything else in their laptop. We have examination room in Zoom 1, and we have 11 breakout rooms. So this one, when written exam was conducted on 14th of May. This one is the examination room, and the residents are doing their exam. While the PIC in every institutions can see the face of the patient, of the residents, and also can see the room of the institutions while the residents done their exam. While the central PIC can see all the resident webcam, all the questions, how many questions that is resident answer, and all 11 examination room via breakout room in Zoom platform. After the exam, questions were analyzed for discrimination index and difficulty factors. After written exam, we do a standard setting for setting of pass. We use a criterion reference using Abel's method. We have 10 panelists, the president of collegium, 3 from educational commission, 3 from national exam commissions, and 3 for institutions accreditation commission. The standard setting Abel were used using the Google form. So the panelists have to choose between the essential, the important, and the questions of each questions in a written exam. This is our portfolio exam before pandemic. 2 examiners for 1 examinee. So the examinee can show the portfolio, the logbook, the video, the surgical video to the examiner. This is our after pandemic portfolio. The orange part is a breakout room in the Zoom. It's contain the examiner 1, examiner 2, the candidate, and the PIC of the collegium. We assess patient care, procedural skill, practice-based learning, and we do interview to the candidates. And put all the rubric on the portfolio using also a Google form. So the examiner only put their mark on the Google form. After the pandemic, we have 11 institutions, 40 examinee doing the portfolio examinations. This is, they can share their logbook, they can share their surgical video. Inside the breakout room, 2 examiner, 1 examinee, and 1 of the PIC. The OSCE, the most hard part of the examinations. From this journal, the key principles of the OSCE is strict infection, cohorting or segregation of participants group, social distancing, Zoom facilitated briefing, Wi-Fi enabled data gathering, and no large group gathering. But for Indonesia, because we have a travel warning for all islands, the OSCE have to be done in their examining institutions. The examiner are from different institutions. The exam will be on Zoom facilitated control by the collegiums. We've done so many meetings before the exam. We design the OSCE, design the rotation, choose the competence to be accessed, design the OSCE stations rubric, design Google Form for OSCE stations assessment, trial the exam, briefing the institutions, briefing the examiner, briefing the examinee, making OSCE guide for PIC, set up group in WhatsApp to distribute informations. This is our OSCE before pandemic. We're using our OSCE center with 2 to 3 lines, 8 to 10 active stations, 1 examiner in each stations. Right now, after pandemic, we've done the OSCE yesterday, 13 June 2020. We have 12 institutions, 46 examinee. In this yellow part is in the Zoom group, in the breakout Zoom room. 1 examiner using 1 laptop or 1 iPad. Second examiner also using 1 laptop or 1 iPad. And 1 laptop for examination room. Medical staff using mobile phone and earphone. Candidate for the using a laptop for OSCE questions, and the PIC from the community. We have using 4 Zoom accounts. Each Zoom account is consists of 6 breakout rooms for each institution. 1 for pre-exam isolations and 1 for post-exam for exam isolations. We're using also a Google form for OSCE rubric that contain also instructions for examiner and examinee. This is example of 1 institutions doing OSCE. This one a local PIC. This student is the residence and examiner. And the Zoom we can see 1 examiner, the second examiner, the examinee, the PIC from the university, and several camera that can that we use for you to see the whole part of the room of the examining. This is example for the examinations. This resident is doing anamnesis for the patients, the local PIC, so the patient, so it can be relay on the Zoom. This one is doing palpebral examination. This resident is in front of the camera, the laptop to see the questions. This is the result of the ones of the question. They have to draw the fundus drawing. This one is using doing a USG, and this resident is trying to make a fundus drawing by see the fundus photograph. This is us, the examination board. Fortunately, I cannot be in the part of the OSCE yesterday, but this is me in the written exam. You can see I like a DJ, using all the equipment to see all the institutions. This is Dr. Muhammad Ichsan, Dr. Arif Wildan, Dr. Tri Rahayu, and behind Dr. Tri Rahayu is the centers of the PIC, Dr. Lukman, Dr. Rofa, Dr. Ira, Dr. Maula, and many of us cannot do any photograph before because they are too busy doing their job. And we also have a feedback from our examinee that the adjusted exam system is great. It will be do the new exam in the new normal condition. Google Form is effective. IT support is very needed, and mostly of the question in each station are well written and representative, but some may be confusing to candidate. There was a difficulty to interpret strabismic physical examination. Poor internet connection maybe cannot be inevitable. This is us before the pandemic. Thank you so much for all the national exam team under Dr. Iwan Sofani, the list of our national exam team, all examiners, all head of study program, all local PIC, the KICMI secretary, Bapak Edi, Bapak Bayu, Dr. Dea, Dr. Yanti, who did the great job. And also, last but not least, all examinee. We hope you pass all the exam and being a great ophthalmologist. Yes. Thank you, moderator.
Thank you very much, Dr. Syntia, for the brilliant presentation. I'm sure there are lots of questions in the chat box, and I can see that some of them has been answered by the presenters, but I'm sure lots of questions are still left. Dr. Ilham and Dr. Melita, could you please help me come up with the questions? Maybe some of them has not been answered.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Tiwi. There's some question for Dr. Syntia from the unnamed resident. The question is, we know during this pandemic, Indonesia held a special type of resident board examination. Is there any possibilities of moving back to the previous examination method? And what do we need to be considered before the moving back to the old style of examination, Doctor?
Yes, thank you so much. If we learn from these examinations, I think for the written exam, maybe this one that we did before pandemic and after pandemic, I prefer doing in after pandemic because we can see all the institutions and the feasibilities, the money you have to pay for coming to one part, either in Bandung or in Indonesia, can be lower. So for written exam is we choose this kind of pandemic type using the safe browser because I think it's safe. It can also very valid, very reliable, and very visible. But for the portfolio, whether this is good exam, but still we have a feedback for from the examinee that it still have to be social approach to the resident or to the examiners. it's a difficulty to use this kind of platform because we can only see one part of a logbook, one part of the portfolio. If the examinations are done like before, we can see whole part of the logbook. But if we already have our e-portfolio, so the portfolio examination can be done using this Zoom platform. For the OSCE, yes, of course, we really want to come back into the before pandemics, because maybe you know all the competence, all the skills, all the knowledge is skill is better to exam, to assess in not in this kind of special conditions. Maybe face-to-face is better compared to this. Maybe Andy have to have comment for this, because Andy, I saw in your previous presentation, your country wants to do also an online OSCE type.
Yes, Dr. Andy, do you have any comments about this question?
Yes, I mean, we've realized that some things will not change. So we will never go back to written exams where candidates come to a single center. So from now on, it will always be done online. We very much hope that we will be able to get back to OSCEs with real patients. But before then, they are going to be videoed examples, and they will, try as hard as possible to get really good discriminating videos that will be able to separate good candidates from bad candidates. But it's going to be very difficult. And can I just applaud you for what you have done? This is an amazing piece of work. We all know how difficult it is to react to this crisis, but to be able to do so quickly, and the organization you'd have had to put in to educate not only the candidates, but for the examiners, it's a huge amount of work. And it's just amazing what you've been able to achieve. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Andy.
Thank you very much, Dr. Andrew, for your comments. May I ask comment from Prof. Budu? Prof, do you have any comments about this question? Or Dr. Melita and Dr. Ilham, do you have another question?
Yes, Doctor, we have another question to Dr. Andrew Pyott. Doctor, how about foreign students? Do you still accept students from abroad for both residency or fellowship?
Yes, in some ways it will be, I think, easier with online exams, because in the past they had to give a preference to those doctors from the UK who were nearing the end of their training, because if they've taken too long to sit their exam, if they're getting close to the end of the 7 years, they have a big problem. So we had to give them priority. And there were a limited number of places, because it is such a lot of work putting in gathering patients together and working out all the OSCE stations. So I think in the short term, I think it will probably be easier for candidates from abroad to enter for exams. Previously, we've had exams taking place in Singapore, which enabled candidates from Asia to come, but hopefully we'll be able to get back to that, and it's likely that Singapore will recover from this pandemic quicker than the UK. So that is the other possibility, but I've not heard a final decision from the college when that's likely to happen.
Thank you, Dr. Andrew Pyott.
Yes. Is there any question left?
Last question, Dr. TV.
Yes. Yes,
It's
please.
for all present, especially for Prof. Budu. The question is, during this pandemic, many co-assistant and residents are asked to stay in the main hospital such as Cipto Mangunkusumo Hospital. And there's no student are allowed to sister hospitals. But we know in the main hospital, the cases are usually too complicated for the COAS. And how do you think about this? And will this affect the knowledge or skill of these students?
Please, Prof. Budu, your comments for this question. Please, admin, unmute Prof. Budu. Could you please help us?
Okay, sorry, because I am not during the questions session. Okay, about the clerkship. During the COVID-19 in Makassar, we closed for clerkship rotation from the 1st of April to May, and in June is also still closed. We want to begin to open the clerkship in the end of June to the 1st of July, because there is three reasons for us to close the clerkship student rotation. First, initially, we very less have prevention closed, just only for residential in frontliner the first time. And the second, the cases in the hospital, also in teaching hospital, in our referral also, is very low. No many cases. Even in our one main teaching hospital, Hasan University teaching hospital, the case for clerkship student is low. Even the polyclinic is closed. And the third, in the first pandemic era, in the 1st of April, many students and the parents of students also phone us, please, firstly, don't enter our child in the hospital. And some of our students as well, who have the members of clerkship student, also go back to their home. Even some of them is from Malaysia, go back to Malaysia. But in the ends of June and in the 1st of July, we try to enter the clerkship rotation by some methods. We open like just journal presentation, and also just only we go to the area that not so many COVID-19 infections region, and also it is limited to the stays in hospital, also in the class. That's all. Thank you, Dr. Ilham. Dr. Tiwi.
Thank you very much, Prof, for your comments. And I'm afraid that we're running out of time. This is the end of the session 2 of the webinar today. I hope that we can collect important message from our speakers today. From the presentations, you could see that the pandemic has initiated our ability to explore the new way of teaching and training, as well as adapt faster to technology-based teaching such as e-learning and online board examination and even doctoral graduation. From strategies necessary to make sure that the residents will reach the expected level of competence, increase frequency, increase variation, and using all kinds of platforms necessary in this condition. Government policy also play an important role in the success of our blended online learning during this pandemic. Once again, I would like to deliver my gratitude. Thank you very much for our outstanding speakers, Prof. Budu, Dr. Andrew, and Dr. Syntia. Before I deliver this session back to the MC, I would like to show you all the result of the poll. So, I will continue this in bahasa. Untuk pertanyaan poll nomor 1, ternyata kalau kita lihat di sini ada 50% orang
yang menganggap bahwa ada 62%, ada 62% orang yang menganggap bahwa situasi pandemik ini menurunkan kualitas pelayanan lebih dari 50%. Lalu untuk yang kedua kita lihat bahwa ada 73% orang yang menggunakan APD level 2 pada saat melakukan pelayanan kesehatan mata rawat jalan di tempatnya masing-masing. Kemudian untuk yang berikutnya ini ada 63% responden yang menjawab bahwa mereka belum melakukan atau mengaplikasikan telemedicine ataupun teleoftalmologi di tempat masing-masing. Untuk pertanyaan berikut, sebanyak 53% responden atau 193 orang menjawab bahwa kombinasi kontak langsung dengan pembelajaran jarak jauh merupakan aplikasi yang mereka gunakan dalam proses belajar mengajar di institusinya masing-masing pada saat ini. Kemudian pertanyaan poll yang terakhir ini hampir 100% ya menjawab, yaitu 93% menjawab bahwa jika menggunakan aplikasi dalam proses belajar mengajar, aplikasi yang digunakan adalah Zoom. Oke, setelah membacakan poll result ini, saya rasa saya kembalikan ke Dr. Melita dan Dr. Ilham untuk memandu sisa acara kita hari ini. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih kepada Dr. Tiwi dan juga saya ucapkan terima kasih kepada seluruh pembicara. Senang sekali ya Dr. Melita, kita pada sampai sore hari ini kita mendapatkan begitu banyak ilmu dan semoga nanti ilmunya juga dapat bermanfaat dan dapat diaplikasikan untuk kita semua ya dokter ya.
Betul sekali Dr. Ilham. Kami mau berterima kasih kembali kepada seluruh pembicara, moderator, pembicara asing, Dr. Irfan, Dr. John Ellis, Dr. Mark Ellis, Dr. Andrew Pyott, thank you very much doctors. Dr. Hasnah, Dr. Tiwi, Prof. Budu, dan Dr. Syntia yang telah sharing pengalaman dengan kita semua. Mungkin ada sedikit sepatah dua patah kata dari Dr. Ichsan, Dok, sebagai perwakilan dari Perdami Sulawesi Selatan.
Ya, terima kasih Dr. Melita, Dr. Ilham. Ya, untuk sekira untuk closing ya. Ya, syukur alhamdulillah, tiada kata yang paling pantas kita ucapkan selain bersyukur pada Tuhan Yang Maha Kuasa atas perkenannya sehingga acara ini bisa berjalan dengan baik. Ucapkan terima kasih kepada seluruh peserta yang hingga akhir acara tetap setia sampai akhir ya. Ini tetap bertahan di angka 945. Berarti kalau kita lihat materi menarik sampai terlaksana. Ucapan terima kasih juga kepada seluruh para, juga buat seluruh teman-teman panitia baik dari Perdami SulSel untuk kerjasama yang terjalin dengan baik. Special thanks to our international speakers, Dr. John Ellis, Dr. Mark Ellis, Dr. Andrew Pyott. We hope that this pandemic will finish soon, so we can meet each other, and we are waiting for your coming, for your visit in Indonesia. We hope we can meet again in the near future. Tak lupa pula kami ucapkan terima kasih kepada Kalbe Vision, kepada Dr. Liana, Pak Isnawan, Pak Asmi dan staf atas dukungan dan kesediaannya menjadi sponsor tunggal dalam kegiatan webinar kali ini. Semoga apa yang kita lakukan pada hari ini mendapat berkah dan bermanfaat bagi kita semua. Amin ya rabbal alamin. Demikian, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Dr. Ichsan. Terima kasih pula dukungannya dari Perdami Sulawesi Selatan. Tidak lupa juga kami menginfokan bahwa dalam waktu dekat ini akan diadakan didaktik course kedua dari IViS yang bertemakan Management of Corneal Problems in Daily Practice yang akan diadakan lusa, yaitu hari Selasa, tanggal 16 Juni 2020, pukul 19 waktu Indonesia bagian Barat.
Ya, tentunya dengan pembicara-pembicara yang
Oke, punya
oke,
pastinya
semua ya.
Dr. Ilham. Iya.
Ya, baik Dr. Melita.
Terima kasih pula kepada seluruh peserta nih Dr. Ilham. Hari ini benar-benar hebat sekali. Zoom kita penuh hari ini.
Luar
Sampai
biasa,
1000
dokter,
peserta, Dok. Iya,
Tadi
dan masih
sampai
bertahan
1000
nih sekitar
peserta ya dokter ya? Betul.
Iya, sampai ada yang di waiting room.
Betul.
Dan ini masih 900-an nih sampai akhir nih. Luar
Dan
biasa.
juga,
Tepuk tangan untuk kita semua.
Tepuk tangan dulu. Iya,
Tepuk tangan dulu.
Dan tidak lupa ada juga yang nonton acara kita di YouTube juga, dokter.
Oh iya, ada. Tadi saya lihat ada sekitar 100-an, Dok, yang di YouTube. Itu
viewers
karena
ya.
iya, karena mungkin nggak kebagian tempat di Zoom ya, Dok, tapi
sekali,
sangat
dokter.
ingin untuk ikutan sharing pengalaman dan pengetahuan dari webinar kali ini.
Ya, betul sekali, dokter. Telah sampailah kita di penghujung acara pada sore hari ini. Kami mohon maaf bila ada kata-kata yang kurang berkenan dari kami selaku MC. Saya mohon pamit. Saya Dr. Ilham.
Saya Dr. Melita. Terima kasih dan sampai jumpa di webinar series IViS berikutnya. Dadah.
Dadah. Terima kasih kepada seluruh pembicara. Terima kasih, dokter.
Terima kasih, dokter semuanya.
Terima kasih, Prof.
Terima kasih, Prof. Terima kasih,
Terima kasih
Dr.
semuanya.
John, Dr. Mark, Dr. Andrew Pyott, dan semuanya.